I want to go this year, Lubie, if we were ever going to cover a draft.
Oh, Vegas, right? Oh, my God.
Viva Las Vegas.
The draft would be insane in Vegas. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
In Vegas, right? And think about this now, with the new fusion and symmetry between all gambling entities. Remember when Roger Goodell was saying, yeah, you know what, we can't have this, it's gambling. Okay, Raj. Now he's in the sports book going, crazy with every basket by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yeah, way to go, man. What are you kidding me? That's not a foul.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
On a perfectly glorious Monday morning. Good morning, everybody. It's a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, and a very handsome looking, although just a few moments ago, you should have seen a look of concern on Mike Lubitz's face, because I kind of clicked on to be on the program, and I see this face, and I'm thinking, are we not going to get on the air today? Is there something up? Did we get a cease and desist from Jack Namer and the people at Ion Channel? Hey, the show's going nowhere. What are we going to do? But sure enough, here we are. And you look good, Lubie. How are you? I hope you had a great Passover Easter weekend. I certainly had a beautiful day yesterday. Grandchildren involved, the whole family getting together here. And, rare convening of the Deforrest family, although many factions involved in that whole process right now, including Liam and Christian. Christian's getting big, man. He's looking like a linebacker at 6.
Nice.
Pretty incredible. I thought he was going to be sort of a smallish kid, but growing fast. And Christian can cry on a dime, man. Absolutely fantastic. Handsome kid. He looks like Brad Pitt. He's going to be a real lady killer. He has no reason to cry. I keep telling him that. I say, you know what? You're not quite 4 yet. You have no reason to cry, man, because you're going to be slaying him your entire life. I mean, just a good-looking little kid, but had a great time, and thanks to the lovely Susan Chaka for putting everything together there. Just absolutely a glorious day. How was your weekend, Libby? Because it involved, for me, much degeneracy as well. I mean, what is a weekend without some point spreads and some ponies? Which, certainly enhances your ability to enjoy life, and there was a lot of that. Another slot jackpot for the Mustang.
Nice.
Sticks your card in the machine, bingo. All of a sudden, here's another few dimes. And I don't know what's going on with that, because you know what happens. It gets to your head. You start thinking you can do this all the time.
Don't assume, exactly.
And that's when you may as well just start gargling with Drano. Janitor in a drum size, because your cash is going to evaporate very quickly once you have the confidence that this is easy.
Exactly.
Which right now it appears to be the proverbial taking candy from a baby and or taking sticks out of a slot machine. But how'd you make out this weekend, Louie? Good?
It was a good weekend. We have the trip with in Greece at the end of the week. So we normally do the Seder. My family did the whole thing. But we're a little sketched out about being around people because the protocols are still a little weird about traveling in and out of America to other countries. So we sort of kept it low key this weekend because trip's bought and paid for. It's non-refundable because it was a special deal. So I'm not trying to take any chances and get some stupid ass negative and like be stuck there and not be able to get in. So we went low key this weekend, but we did have our own mini little Seder at the house. My mom went crazy at her house. And we just hung out a lot. It was a lot of hanging out this weekend, and I got to watch all the NBA yesterday. So that was fantastic to watch the Miami Heat look like the team we saw most of the season.
Well, and that, figured, and it did refute one of the Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo's theories, which he's ready to throw in the towel on a Panther bet. He's already booking reservations for 3 before Anthony's Runway 84 even closes, because even though it's going to be in the middle of that opening round series, he figures after they've won 10 in a row, slaughtered everybody, have the best record in the NHL, and just playing like dynamite. And they're blowing people out, too. I mean, the scores are like 5-1-6, 1-7-0, that kind of thing. I mean, looking like the heyday of the Montreal Canadiens, right? I mean, you're thinking, Les Habitants, where's Maurice Richard had a goal in a game? I love the Rocket Man. Maurice Richard had a goal in a game. I mean, boom, boom, Jeffrion scored last night for the Panthers. It was absolutely fantastic as they beat Detroit on national TV. And Detroit has not been Detroit for a long, long time. At one time, I mean, just a dominant force, and you thought they were going to perpetuate that forever. But nothing is forever in sports, Lubie, including, as I think our good friend Mike Mayo is about to discover, including a losing trend in first-round playoff series. Although, you have to accept, of course, anything can happen. Your goalie could take a puck in the eye, and the next thing you know, you're playing a backup. You're calling a guy up from the AHL who hasn't been in a pro game in his life, beyond the minor league level. And things can change in a heartbeat. They certainly did in the basketball game for the Brooklyn Nets yesterday afternoon.
God.
Wow.
Oh my God!
There was some outstanding action all the way around. Not just, not every NBA game was so compelling. If you're a Heat fan, naturally you were loving this. But Mayo's theory was that, oh, geez, what a horrible disadvantage it is for the number one seed not to know who they're going to play before Friday night, when that was decided that Atlanta got in by virtue of their victory on the road over the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they won the play-in event and ended up, even though they were outside the top 8 coming into that play-in tournament, they made their way into the postseason. However, they made their way in only to get hit right out of the chute with a haymaker by the Miami Heat. Trae Young, how about this? Trae Young, 1 for 12 in a game. You talk about tired legs. He had been sensational in the 2 play-in games that the Atlanta Hawks were involved in. And then you had Duncan Robinson, who Coach Spoelstra, I thought probably a very viable candidate for Coach of the Year. I mean, they did give it to the guy in Phoenix, but I don't know. Obviously, he had a great season with this team, but they were an excellent team all year long, and they were in the NBA Finals last year. So you would have to think, with young guys, expectations naturally would at least ratchet up a notch for this season. It was no great surprise that Phoenix had a good year, was it?
No.
I don't know that it was any great surprise that the Heat had a good year, but the Heat having as good a year as they did in an Eastern Conference that everybody's raving about, how deep and competitive it is, you would have to say at least worthy of consideration, no, for Coach of the Year. But when you're a real good coach, I mean, Spo is like the modern-day Red Auerbach at this point. When you're not good, they gave it to Red every year because they were afraid not to. Did they not? Red would have done something. I mean, he would have had him banned from the league. He controlled everything, Red Auerbach. Some of those trades that Auerbach was able to pull off, are you kidding me, huh?
That was nonsense. Sorry, Viscerama. But come on.
I mean, it seemed like any string that man wanted to pull,
They're like
they couldn't wait to just accommodate him and just cut loose great talent for nothing that he was offering direct back in return.
In the championship, you got the second pick when Larry Bird was second pick. They had a series of championships and somehow were able to get Len Bias. Like somehow they always had top 5 picks and also were contending for a championship. It's like the anti what you hate. It's like they weren't tanking; they were just getting given great draft picks.
Oh yeah, I mean Joe Barry Carroll for the Chief would have been a diabolically bad deal for the team that acquired the Warriors, who acquired Carroll. But then you throw in the rights to Kevin McHale. Are you kidding me?
I mean, come on.
Yeah, you could have this McHale kid. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll give you the Chief too.
Auerbach's just that great. No, the league was sort of like behind the scenes here.
Imagine, Auerbach calls and says, "Hey, I want to trade you Joe Barry Carroll, who's stiff, for the Chief, Robert Parrish." And the Warriors are going, "Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll take that deal." And then Auerbach says, "Yeah, and the league is also insisting you throw in Kevin McHale." Okay, yeah, whatever you say, Red. It's your league. That was a great ball game, and wow, I mean, that's a tough one. You talk about having to, and people always say, "Well, geez, are you better off being Atlanta, just getting blown out of a ball game like that, and then you bounce back? You still have an opportunity to, get that so-called steal of a game on the other team's home wood to start the series, and now you've reversed, at least for the time being, home court advantage." So Atlanta, I mean, as badly as they played, as poorly as they looked, they gave no evidence, though, that they can compete with the depth of the Miami Heat, including Duncan Robinson, a guy that's Spo threw to the bench. Coach of the Year, he throws this guy on the bench. He goes 8 for 9 from three-point land. Holy Rex Chapman against the Chicago Bulls. It was just an absolute thing of beauty. But some very exciting action. I guess the surprise was Minnesota going on the road and beating Memphis and beating them handily. With your man, John Morant, who, has been sensational all year. And as you were pointing out, which led me to believe that the Timberwolves were in there with a very live shot on the money line, Mike Lubitz, as you were pointing out, they were great with John Morant and just as great or even better without John Morant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, either way, you're thinking Memphis is looking real good. And, Minnesota might be dealing with the curse of having A-Rod hovering around the team, although A-Rod... He don't miss a beat, does he? I mean, he's like, "You can have her, Ben."
Yeah, exactly.
He ain't all that.
Thank God.
Got some hot physical,
Yeah, of course.
trainer he's running around with right now, like 26 years old. I mean, this is a guy that's already been through. I mean, you talk about got him, need him, right? To Cameron Diaz, Kate Hudson. I mean, every blonde babe that ever starred in a movie, A-Rod was associated with or having an affair with. And then J-Lo, I guess, was the prize, although it is true. I mean, she has more rings than Chuck Nevitt. She really does, man. She had like 5 wedding rings in the last
Or engagement.
like 8 years.
Always gets married. Like she went to engagement with A-Rod, and now she's engagement with Affleck. I don't know how many times she's actually been married. I know the dancer guy, and I think Mark Anthony. I don't know how many actual marriages outside of that.
Doesn't matter, man. The rings still, I mean, have been accumulated, and she's very, quick to show them off, like because each one is far more expensive than the last one, which was already an overwhelmingly lavish, unnecessary expense for whatever guy was laying that on her. Yeah.
How Riley puts the rings on the table whenever he has a free agent, and she's like Riley. She just wears all of them.
There it is. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you got for me? That's a great approach to life, is it not? But very exciting sports weekend all the way around. So the NBA playoffs get underway. Pretty much according to routine. Doncic out for the Dallas Mavericks, so they kind of gave him no shot in there against Utah, and Utah handled them easily and is favored again tonight. I believe they pick up Game 3 tonight. The Utah Jazz, yes, and that's 4.5 on the home wood of the Dallas Mavericks, with Doncic likely out. I think it's already been declared that he's going to be out for this game, too. 76ers look great, right? Everybody was saying the wise guys were all in on the Raptors. And, we kind of hung on the fringe of that. Every now and then you're doing this kind of work and you get like 100 guys on in a row and they all tell you the same thing. And you're thinking, these guys do this for a living. Well, we just come in here and try to have a good time. I mean, I watch more than my share of sports. I know you do, too. So, you're trying to formulate your own opinion. But if you hear, and how many guys did we have? We had Brian Mahoney from the Associated Press. Most of this was on our Believe podcast.
Yeah.
We had Howard Beck. I mean, this guy's a very authoritative. Did a show with Scoop Skolnick for a while.
Yep.
On what was the thing that Turner had?
They were on Bleacher Report.
Yeah. What happened to Bleacher Report? Is that finished?
It exists, but it isn't as prominent as it once was.
What was that Fugazi network that we were all excited that we were going to sign up with, that you ran into the guy at the Radio Row one year?
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember. I don't think it exists.
And the guy he wanted us to pay to be on, which, I found sort of insulting. As he was saying, wow, you guys do tremendous work. I tell you what, I caught a little bit of your show, man. It's fantastic, right? And then he showed me a list of stations. I think the biggest one was KZOO in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I'm like, I always wanted to be on the zoo. Probably belong in one, but nonetheless, and this was that was like his marquee station. You're in all the big markets. Look at that. You're in Michigan. Like, yeah, but I mean, we're not talking Detroit here. We're talking Kalamazoo, some schmank outpost in the middle of nowhere that nobody would visit. The only reason anybody recognizes it is because it was used once in a song.
Exactly.
Right? From here to Kalamazoo. Get the hell out of here.
Honestly.
But, yeah, I mean, all of these experts that we had on from various networks and affiliations, they all said the same thing. Well, don't sleep on the Raptors, which could come to pass, but nonetheless, didn't really transpire. I mean, Philadelphia just hammered them, and that was without getting massive amounts of points from either Harden or Embiid, although Harden had a lot of assists. I think he had. It's funny, they were talking about how Harden had like a poor game. And he had like 22 points and 14 assists or something.
He played well.
What constitutes a good game at this point? Does he have to have like 50? I don't know. Embiid was under 20 points in the ball game, and your boy, I can't even say that anymore. I mean that as a colloquialism. But your man, Maxey, went crazy and had like 38 points. And they were starting to look up whether Iverson ever did that or Dr. J in their first ever playoff game. So, that was pretty exciting. See Philadelphia explode like that, because almost everybody thought, and it still may, as I said, come to pass that the Raptors win the series, because that was on the home wood of the Philadelphia 76ers. So it doesn't really start till somebody loses at home. Is that the deal?
That's Riley's old saying. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, if the home team, that has home court advantage never loses, then obviously that Rileyism is just a little bit of a stretch of the imagination. Sorry, Pat, man, but and I still can't get over how they're portraying this poor man. And Jerry West. I mean, was he really just an absolute imbecile, Jerry West? I'm
I
talking
mean,
about that winning time thing. I can't watch it because
I've also
it
asked
just
you.
it's disturbing after a while, the creative license they've taken with this stuff. Is there a deeper message there in that show that I haven't been able to determine or decipher yet?
I mean, I
Because
think it's a parody. I think Jerry West wasn't, because in his later years he was. I mean, well, ever since
he
when
wasn't a psychotic nut though, where like he's in a taxi
we're
cab
not.
throwing his MVP trophy through the windshield. I mean, he wasn't nuts like this.
When he found his footing as a GM, he became, next to Riley, the best executive in NBA outside of Auerbach. But again, Auerbach was mostly they were handing him people. I don't know how great of a GM he was. Jerry West was as good a GM as there ever was. So in his older years, that's Jerry West. I knew he was a more genteel, humble,
Very
whatever.
distinguished gentleman. No, I mean
That's who I knew.
reserved. You would have to say, if anything. I mean, and then later, the story came out. He had a biography out, and it turned out he had a very abused childhood. He was abused as a child by his father, who was a real nutbag,
Yep.
at least according to the story. And it took him a long time to get over that.
Yes.
But he was not inclined to these kind of, outbursts of insanity, was he? Where you're just looking at the guy and saying, how much fentanyl did you take, Jerry? What the hell is wrong with you?
I mean, we've talked to people that said, yes, Jerry West had sort of, it was winner or nothing. And I get that, but that doesn't mean you have to be a total jerk off. And Pat Riley, it does make sense. He was in between careers. But again, Pat Riley looked like a schlep. Like, that's the perfect way. That's how they portray him to be, a way that I've never heard him portrayed, even before he became Mr. Slick Back Hair. Like, the dude was, if he wasn't an NBA star, he was a big part of a team that won. And then in college, he was a star. So he was never like this guy that was just kicking the sand, trying to figure out what to
Like
do.
nuts. I mean, just absurd, like a crying, whining, jerk. Kvetching about everything. I can't see that. I really can't. I can't see Red Auerbach waving to Jerry Buss as he's sitting in the very back row of the old Boston Garden with rats running around in the locker room. And, and Red just happens to spot him in the crowd at Boston Garden. Did you see this crowd at Boston Garden yesterday? They were insane. And then
that was nuts.
a lot of people will make a big deal of the Kyrie Irving. I mean, an athlete probably shouldn't be flashing the bird there at the crowd, no matter how hideous and obnoxious they are being towards that player. I mean, and they were giving him the business. So I don't know. I tend to give Irving, who's a nutbag to begin with, a little bit of a free pass on his behavior, because, I mean, what are you supposed to do, right? There was a guy, I mean, like 2 feet from him. He's inbounding the ball, screaming, "Yo, suck, Kyrie!" And I understand it's all part of it, and these NBA guys have heard virtually everything, including, no doubt, an endless stream. And here we are in Boston. I don't want to make any implications because it's a big day there today, but you don't think there might have been a few racial epithets mixed in there with the Kyrie comments as he's standing there courtside? I mean, if anything, he might have shown, for as crazy as this guy is, he might have been showing, snug restraint, as they say, in thoroughbred racing, simply by making a couple of what are considered to be obscene gestures. But is it really? I mean, does it really matter, right? A guy goes like this.
I don't care.
Big deal, right?
Yeah, I don't
As
care.
they say, big fucking deal. I mean, who cares?
You shouldn't do it.
The whole thing with the throat slashing and all of this and Afangul. I mean, what difference does it make? It's harmless compared to what's going on in the world, is it not?
Exactly.
I mean, does it foster this kind of acrimony among people? You had, and we're shrugging our shoulders again. You had 3 sort of mass shootings taking place over the weekend, right? 2 in one spot, right? 2 in one city, and then another Pittsburgh. There's 200 kids are in an Airbnb, and some people just start unloading like it was Frank Nitti showing up, on the St. Valentine's Day massacre. I mean, just deplorable and disgusting, and very scary and frightening what's going on in the world. And as we say, that's why it's good for us, Lubie, to just bury our heads in the sand and be talking about the sporting world. And let's face it, in context, it certainly is not life and death. Whether Kyrie Irving, I mean, it's lacking in class, correct? But I would imagine several of those comments. I don't, I wasn't there. You couldn't hear him, but you would have to think that some of that stuff was probably a little bit over the top, right? and it wouldn't have been inappropriate for Kyrie Irving to turn around and slug somebody. Good. I mean, the passion thing is good. It always makes for great drama, does it not? The fact that they hate him in Boston because he left there, which is always a strange thing for me. I mean, if the guy is so despicable, why are you mad that he left? You should be happy. You should be going, hey, okay. I mean, maybe you're not rooting for him to do well, but do you really care? He's not here anymore. You despise the guy.
Yeah, get him out of here. Who gives a shit?
Right? Get over it, Boston. Right? I mean, there'll be players that come and go from the Celtics, from now into perpetuity. And I don't know. I mean, it kind of made it a little bit more entertaining, the ball game, because I don't have any great vested interest in either team. And I wasn't sure. I still am not sure which way that series is going to go. I mean, it couldn't have been any tighter. A score at the buzzer. Wow, what a heartbreaking loss. You have a chance to take game one on the other team's home wood. You're a 7th seed. You played your way into this thing, into the postseason. You had turmoil galore all year long. I mean, all kinds of crazy, fugazi stuff like vaccines and bans and your own city, the mayor. I mean, how much lobbying you think was done by, the Nets brass to the mayor of New York saying, just make one exception. One exception. And they eventually did, and then they actually had to make like one more exception for this waitress that worked at Shea Stadium, or Citi Field now. And she was saying, hey, wait a minute, man. How come these guys don't have to be vaccinated? They can go to work in the very same place where I, unvaccinated, make my whatever meager dollars I make during the year during the course of the season. And because I'm not vaccinated and I'm not some star, I can't work. Yeah. So they made an exception for her. It's kind of an interesting story out of New York. I don't know if she was the only one or if they've just kind of wiped that whole thing out. Which here you are concerned about COVID-19. I got the 4th booster shot, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Saturday. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had no perceivable reaction to any of the previous 3, including the original one. I was never like sick or anything or knocked out. Might have been a little bit tired. I did pass out like after a very short period of time of engaging in various inebriants and alcohol yesterday afternoon, falling asleep in front of that Heat game, which got me up just in time to catch a lot of that Boston-Brooklyn Nets game. Great game, huh? 61 all at halftime.
That game was
good
great.
Shooting all the way through. A lot of exciting stuff. And then, what were the chances? The guy that throws the pass to Tatum for the winning basket. I mean, that was like a second left on the clock at that point. Crazy. And you're passing the basketball, and it works.
If they had totally lost Tatum, if there was even a body near Tatum, that doesn't happen because there was such little time. If you try to make a pass that's deflected or defended, it wouldn't have happened. They totally lost Tatum, and it was perfect. Bang, bang. Like, dang.
Well, and then he had to do like a 360 spin move to get around Kyrie Irving, who wasn't really, obviously he's not going to attempt to put a hand out and foul the guy and put him on the line to win the ball game.
Yeah.
And so that was great. Great drama there for sure. Golden State looked pretty good. I would have to say, Mike Lubitz, Golden State.
Yep.
In their game against Denver. I mean, they look real good, razor sharp, and we're getting contributions. Steph Curry had a little bit of ring rust early in the ball game. He missed like his first 5 shots, and they weren't really particularly very good-looking attempts. And then he started to get it together and became a contributor. Klay Thompson, great. Draymond Green was in the ball game. This guy, Poole. Looks like a hell of a player. So, wow, I mean, all of a sudden they become a threat. The Suns easily handled the New Orleans Pelicans, although the final margin was only 11. You know what the spread was in that game, of course, Lubie? 10 and a hook.
That's funny.
So, I mean, there were probably some people that got that game at 9 and a hook. At or like 11 or whatever. Yeah, I guess it would be 11, and ended up with a push after you were dominating the entire ball game. You're up like 30. That's where they get you, at the other end of that thing. Many other things happening too, and the Bulls put up a pretty good battle. I sent you a text that Caruso, man. You talk about a guy. Caruso. I mean, this is the old adage about what this guy doesn't necessarily show up in the box score. Which in a short span of time, Alex Caruso, the former Los Angeles Laker, who was I think a viable contributor and catalyst for whatever success. I mean, you could talk all you want. Obviously, LeBron is the main impetus there, and Anthony Davis. But Caruso was a very valuable contributor, and he ends up with the Chicago Bulls. Of course, you had Grayson Allen knocked him out of the works there for about 3-4 weeks, right? Remember when he had that cheesy, cheap Coach K induced foul? And he knocked this guy to the floor, and Alex Caruso was out for the Bulls for a while, and it kind of decimated the momentum they had going at the time. And, people wrote them off thinking that they weren't very good. Now, I'm not saying that his infusion back into the lineup is enough to win them a championship, but wow, he had a spell there where he takes 2 charges from Antetokounmpo, all right? 2 charges from the Greek to give the Greek 5 fouls at a critical point there early in the fourth quarter. He executes and swipes the ball away twice on, moving into the passing lane there or whatever you want to call it, and just picking a ball off and leading to transition points at the other end. Even though he didn't score them, I guess he gets credit for the assist and the steal. And hits a big 3-pointer out of the corner, and then makes another key bucket and a couple of other passes, all in the span of about 5 minutes. And it helped turn the game around, although Milwaukee eventually prevailed because, your man Zach LaVine was line driving bricks from about 40 feet away.
They couldn't score the last, and they had a shot too. The last 2-3 minutes, they had a chance to really possibly pull away, and they just couldn't score at all, and the Bucks eventually pulled away. The Bulls were horrendous the last 3 minutes.
Yeah. So very encouraging. A few things. I mean, if you're a Miami Heat fan, you had to feel really good about the way that they pummeled the Atlanta Hawks. And
the thing is, the Heat now, it's not the Heat. All the teams that outside of the Grizzlies, all the teams that were the higher seed looked pretty strong. Like the Suns, the Warriors, the Heat, the Celtics, and the Bucks struggled a little bit. But those 3 teams looked really good. The difference was the Heat's best players really didn't play. Like Butler was good, but not great. Hero was horrendous. Like Hero, I was literally hoping they would pull him out at times. In the first 10 minutes he played, he had 5 turnovers. He looked really bad. And Bam didn't do anything. Bam was great defensively, but nothing on offense. But they're so deep that it's what's happened all year long that it didn't matter. The Hawks were shell-shocked. Trey probably was a little tired, but also he had no room. He's used to being able to do all of his stuff and get some space. They blanketed him. If they could keep that intensity up, they're scary. And that's why they're scary. Not because, they don't have the big star. No, because everyone they have can do stuff. Even Robinson wasn't getting worked. They kept him in the fourth quarter because he was so hot. And they weren't defensively. He looked decent. They didn't even have a great game yesterday. That's what's impressive about the Heat's win is 2 of their top 4 players were okay. We just think if they turn it on. So that's what made me excited was, wow, they really came out pissed. It's if they can hold on to this anger, they'll be really scary. The problem is we saw it all year. Once in a while, they'll sort of go, okay. And then
all they need is to have UD give the pregame speech every game and then refuel the team with the kind of vigor it takes to play with that level of intensity you're looking for, Lubie, by giving a halftime speech and threatening to beat the crap out of anybody that doesn't buy in. That'd be the way to do that. Trae Young, by the way, I mean, he had his way with the Cavaliers in that second game of the play-in. Literally, it was the old Chick Hearn thing. Here he is yo-yoing up and down, who, by the way, they keep making Chick Hearn out to be a buffoon on that winning time also, which that upsets me because I was a great admirer of the legendary voice of the Lakers for so many years, the late, great Chick Hearn. But, wow, I mean, Trae Young against the Heat defense, all of a sudden, I mean, he can't even get his hands on a ball.
No.
And when he does have it on there, there are 6 arms, like an octopus is reaching in there. Riley himself even was credited with 2 steals. So they found a way to throttle this guy. And what happens with a guy that style is once you start to fluster them, then they start forcing shots that they it's not as if Trae Young doesn't look like he's forcing a few anyway.
Yeah.
And a force to me is a guy that stops 40 feet from the basket and just looks at the defender, and then just hoists one. No attempt to move any closer. I mean, holy Oscar Robertson. What happened to the theory of why would I take a 14-footer if I can get a 13-footer? But they completely stymied him, and it was night and day, the defense on Trae Young. Now, he might have had an off game anyway, and, getting back to our man Mike Mayo, he was saying what a big disadvantage this is, not knowing who your opponent is, but you're getting the worst team that got into the postseason, the absolute last bag lady schleppers, and then on top of that, they just played 2 games in the last 3-4 days.
And
had to play their eyeballs out with all the heat on, all the pressure.
Yep.
Of knowing that if they lost, they were going home. So, I mean, it's not like you could go ahead and just make it a cakewalk through those games. You
The
couldn't go
Nets were
through the
able,
motions there.
of all the teams, they only played one game and they were dominating, so they sort of coasted, and you saw like it didn't really affect them. The Cavs, the first game was a little tough, not that tough. The game versus the Cavs, they almost lost. Like they had to go to the end of that game, busting ass. Trey played out of his mind, and that was
great
night. So, and then you played the first game Sunday. So that's why when May was saying that, I was like, you really know you're only playing two teams.
Yeah.
And you probably presume you're playing
You're getting a guy who fought in the prelims and got almost got knocked out. And now he's coming back in the main event because the main event guy got sick at the last minute and, or got cold feet, didn't want to step in there with Mayweather. I mean, come on.
Well, and then
you're getting a shot fighter. And that's what it looked like. I mean, it was very much a shot fighter look that the Atlanta Hawks had. Now, I don't know that they have any chance to win that series without my man Clint Capella in there, and it looks like that's going to be the case. I mean, by the time he comes back, this will be maybe 4-0 Miami Heat. But let's not get carried away here, Lubie. It's only one game. You have more games, 3 games on tap tonight. I mean, it's debatable, I guess, between this and the fall. But what a great time of the year if you're a sports fan. Because we haven't touched on like 3/4 of the stuff that was brilliant over the weekend. Now, I saw 0.0 USFL, not because I'm opposed to it. I think it's fine. I actually feel badly for football players. I've seen this many times, like firsthand, where a guy comes in, a reputable NFL player, maybe he's been out of the league for like half a season, but he still wants to play. Nobody will sign him, comes in with a little duffel bag, gets like 15 minutes to run around in shorts in front of a coaching staff that is losing anyway. So who knows what their opinion is worth. And then they tell the guy, hey, thanks very much for coming. Here's a plane ticket home. We'll see you next time. And so it's very borderline, guys that make it in the NFL and guys that don't. And as a professor was pointing out on Friday, and he's probably right about this, on any USFL roster, you might find 2, 3, even 4 or 5 guys that could easily be in the NFL if the perception was just slightly different about their play, or maybe they were in a bad situation like Tesler's always talking about, where you get these undrafted free agents. But, what good is it if you're an undrafted free agent tight end and you go to a team that already had 2 established pro tight ends and drafted a tight end, number 5 overall?
Yep.
You're not making that roster. I mean, it's just a fact. So, if you end up there, it's just like a chance maybe to do what? To run around and practice and hope, the coaching staff gets fired and they end up somewhere else. And they might remember that, hey, you remember that kid, Smith? He looked good. But very, very tenuous. So I'm a fan of the idea of having a place to actually demonstrate that you could play, and maybe have NFL scouts or whoever is looking at this level of football, or these coaches for the most part have had NFL connections, so maybe they call their buddy and go, hey, you know what, Lou could really help you. Yep. There I am with the Lou again, man. So it's good, but I don't know, as far as like following it, there were betting lines on these games. So
oh my god, yeah, Ken and I were talking about
people are sending it in on USFL now. You would think also that if you had any knowledge of it, if you actually did some research, I mean, you never know how it's going to work out, but could you not figure out like who the better teams were if you knew anything about these players? Well, what do you think? That would be a league where you might be able to have an edge in terms of gambling. Is that possible?
Well, that's the thing, is if you saw the rosters, and look, Ken talked about it. If you find a roster that has any kind of capable offensive lineman, that team should annihilate everybody, because the linemen are really where it sucks. Like even the quarterback play isn't so bad. Like we saw a couple of the guys from XFL or whatever get into the NFL and be okay. Like, and receivers and running backs. I mean, speed is speed. Defensive ends, it's the offensive lineman. If you can find any team that has linemen you've heard of and have had any success in the NFL, that team should go undefeated, because the linemen are dreadful. Like the linemen are so bad.
No, he made a good point. The professor is on fire again Friday on our Degenerate Friday show here on Ion Channel, when he was talking about every offensive lineman that has pro capabilities is already in the NFL. Otherwise, you're just taking fat guys out of a Wawa, and saying, hey, Joe, put that sandwich down. I got a contract for you. I'm going to give you 2 dimes to play for the USFL team today. Now, is the NFL backing this? Obviously, I can't imagine that they would dive into this. A bunch of ambitious would-be, wannabe NFL owners. And they all put their money up knowing that it was destined to become a just endless sea of red ink until the league finally threw in a towel, or are they being backed by the NFL? Because the NFL could use some kind of American minor league system, although they already have the college system, which, think about that. What an advantage. You don't have to pay any money to train these guys, Lubie. Nothing. Zero.
I'm aware.
Everything is just profits. And, every now and then you send a little contribution over there to Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide and going, go Tide. Let's go, Nick. That'd be great. All right. We have more to talk about. There was a funeral yesterday of significance to me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we'll tell you what died. It's kind of interesting because, it is all part of my story here in South Florida. So that took place last night. And from my understanding, it was quite a glorious and celebrated ceremony.
Okay.
I mean, it was well regarded by the general public out there. And if I'm not mistaken, our friend Pete Aiello might have even been involved.
Nice.
So, we'll talk about that. Hialeah Park, certainly not dead. And wow, very much alive for my May 7th festivities. I can't wait. Frankie told me that Yuriokis Gamboa couldn't win that fight against Isaac the Pitbull Cruz. He was on the undercard of the Spence Ugas fight, which, was, from what I could see of it, which, isn't it weird? You O.J. Simpson at one time. You could, pirate pay-per-view. Where's pay-per-view at these days? Because now, without even doing any of that, you can just click on YouTube, and 2 minutes after the fight's over, they have some pirated version.
And there's other ways to get pirated. I think Showtime, or I guess it's not. HBO doesn't do boxing anymore, but I think Showtime still does boxing.
Showtime is, they had that show.
And then is it DAZN that still does stuff? Or I know ESPN Plus.
DAZN, yeah.
I know
they're still
ESPN
doing stuff.
Plus still has the big UFC fights. So that's where you get your pay-per-view.
And you can pirate all of that stuff?
Probably, yeah. All of them have ways of seeing them.
Do we put out a special video somewhere on our social media how to pirate pay-per-view television? It's probably common knowledge to everybody but me, right?
No, yeah, people know.
And now Mayweather, conditioned me to never buy another pay-per-view event. I don't care. You could bring back Hagler Hearns in their prime, and I'm not buying it.
I know. I'm there.
After watching those Money Mayweather fights, Juan Manuel Marquez standing there like the chief in Cuckoo's Nest, just taking whatever errant shot Mayweather would throw on occasion, where he averaged 4 punches around. It was great. Well, why do people all freeze in front of Money Mayweather? It wasn't like Mayweather wasn't talented. He was.
He was so good defensively.
But when he was most popular and making his greatest fortune, $100 million a night, he didn't do anything. Nothing.
Hated it.
Yeah, the fight with McGregor was more exciting than most of his, fights against, supposedly competitive.
That's why I like the fights at Hialeah, because there's action. Watching a Mayweather fight's the boringest thing in the history of the world. At least when they get in the ring in Hialeah, they go at it. They ain't God.
Frankie sat down with the two promoters involved here, the great Leon Margulies, Louis de Cubas, and the other faction that's involved now, promotional faction that's involved, Henry Revolta, who's a great guy also we had on the show. And I think Frankie looked at them both and said, I don't want any Money Mayweather fights on this card. No Money Mayweather.
He did a good job. It seems
so it's going to be great. It's May 7th. It's coming up. It's going to be fantastic. All of these electrifying Cuban fighters. Ugas is a hell of a competitor and a real classy gentleman in the ring there. He went over. I heard he had a broken nose, busted ribs. Now, he rocked Errol Spence at one point. Spence says he really wasn't hurt, but, he caught him with a shot, stunned him for a second, and then I don't know what happened with Spence. He thought he heard the referee say stop. And so he sort of went Ortiz for a second and let his guard down. And Ugas just absolutely smacked him with a couple of shots. And this kid can punch it's not like he's a slouch, when it comes to power. Not a huge knockout artist, but anyway, so that was representative of this Cuban determination. When these guys come over and turn pro, we've seen some greats, right? Arislan de Lara, Casamayor, many others. Diabolis Hurtado almost took out Sweet Pea Whitaker one time. Went 11 rounds looking like a champ there. So, a lot of great talent, and it's going to be on display, including this Victor Abreu guy who, amateur record was phenomenal. Now, a lot of these guys that come from Cuba and finally get to, a free country where they can defect and turn pro, come with great amateur records because it was a brilliant program that they were coming from. But, wow, these guys are already manifesting a lot of that talent as pros. So get your tickets for May the 7th. And they're available right now, HialeahPark.com. Get your tickets. And I would imagine they're going to go fast, right, Lubie? Because the last show was a similar theme, and it was a spectacular. Everybody was going nuts. And you know what it's like. I mean, when you hear the people that the thing just goes straight back from the ring in the graduated grandstand, which, phenomenal how they were able to work this out. Because we're down there ringside having a ball, but, I mean, no one's getting jobbed in any of the seats there. Even if I wouldn't mind being in the back row for those fights where you really get the feeling of the vibe and everything. And I kind of like that. But, it's going to be fun. Great atmosphere. And then they just roll right into the casino there. Steve Calabro greeting you with like free play and all kinds of stuff. Get a player's card when you come in there or just any time. I mean, it doesn't have to be May the 7th. But also happens to be, for me, Champion Simulcasting Room. Derby Day. How about that?
Yeah, oof, what a day.
Polyman has a sleeper. I don't know if this horse is going to get into the Derby. Polyman. And the name of the horse was Barber Road. Barber Road.
Barber Road, okay.
All right. Maybe what? Similar breeding as Barbaro? Is that possible? Or is that... obviously, Barbaro wasn't involved. Yeah. Talk about dead meat. No, that's a bad joke. Anyway... No, it was unfortunate because I unloaded on Barbaro in that Preakness when the poor horse broke down, thinking, wow, that Derby win was no fluke. This is a spectacular horse. Anyway, you might have spotted that horse, and it's already in your cachet of horses that you plan to play, but it's going to be a blast, and there's no better place to celebrate that than the Champion Simulcasting Room. So well appointed. I always gotten, a little bit of a verbal, contretemps with a guy just cuts right in front of me like a jerk. One of the machines at this local parimutuel facility I'm at. It's like you don't have to worry about that at Hialeah Park. The people know they're horse players, man. They play with passion and they understand it, courtesy, and it's just a great place. Well run all the way around. No nonsense, but a lot of fun. Champion Simulcasting Room for the Derby and the fights on May the 7th. Get your tickets, HialeahPark.com. Going to be a blast. And big Cuban heavyweight who's, what's the guy's name? Perro or something like that. No, that would be dog. That would be dog in Spanish.
It'll be a last name.
El Perro. I think it might be. I don't know. Anyway, this guy's some kind of dog. I mean, I'm talking about the big dog. So,
yeah,
yeah, well, we'll get you all the details on that, but you can find it at HialeahPark.com. Make the plans, be there, catch the fights. Going to be as exciting as Spence and Ugas was, and maybe all the way through the whole card. So that's going to be just a great, great day. Mark it on your calendar to be at Hialeah Park. All right, I'm Jeff Deforrest. He is Mike Lubitz. It's the Defo Show here on Ion Channel. In the second hour of the program, I don't know, do you think he handicapped the USFL? Did he take a look at it, John Congemi on Dateline Dolphins?
He probably wanted to come back. Looking at some of it.
Jim Sarney sarcastically asks, are we going to dwell for the entire hour on who's going to be picked 102nd in the draft?
Oh, we can. Does he want? We can do more draft if he wants. I'm always ready to talk draft.
I don't know. I don't know enough about it this year. I really
I know
don't.
you know, but I can bullshit it.
No, I've been reading, the usual capsulizations of various positions, and they've been doing a very nice job of this to build up in the New York Post. Every day they have another position outlined in like the top 10 guys. So, you could probably come up with something there. But I mean, what does it mean? Nothing.
We don't get
nothing.
He's lucky, right? Because the week it's draft week. I usually go insane, and I'm not, so he may get a break this year.
When I was plagiarizing those Joel Bushbaum snippets on each player so I could fill like 800 different features we had to make for the draft coverage we did on WIOD. I mean, you'd look at it and go, all right, seems like the same cliches apply to virtually every single guy, right?
Yep.
May have to work on his quickness. I don't know. Yeah, of course he's going to have to work on his quickness. He's 360 pounds, Joel. He's lucky he can get out of bed. He needs a crane just to get out of the house. What are you talking about? All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. John Congemi going to join us. We'll get into some football conversation and also a brilliant golf tournament. Wow, this Heritage Classic. Have you watched that? It's somewhere, Harbortown, South Carolina. Lubie. Looks like a nice place to spend some time. Have you ever thought about visiting this? I guess
maybe.
So some places there that people say isn't like Charlotte, like supposed to be a a nice travel destination for people?
Maybe. Sure.
Is it?
Asheville is supposed to be. I enjoyed
That's
Asheville.
North Carolina. What am I talking about? South Carolina. What's the big
North
city
Carolina.
there?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
There.
There you go. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yes, I've heard of Charleston. People have talked highly of Charleston. I've never been there, so it could be
supposed to be nice. I'm assuming this place is somewhere nearby. I mean, it's a seaside town there, harbor town, South Carolina. Anyway, Jordan Spieth, who I wrote off after the Masters and said I will never play this guy again, ever.
Well, there you go. Good for him.
Guts out a win as he almost holes out from the sand on the sudden death playoff hole, and he's going against Patrick Cantlay, who's they both had winning records in playoffs. Although now Cantlay is 3-3, but and Cantlay had a chance to win the tournament with a putt on 18. Now it wasn't like it was any gimme. I mean, I'm talking about 20 feet away, but just missed it, and then had to go back out. Spieth beat him in the first hole. He sees Spieth just plunge a shot into the sand trap in front of the green. Right now, the wind must have been picking up or something. And this is a hole that Cantlay had birdied the first 3 rounds of the tournament and just missed. I mean, by a whisker, Lubie, winning the tournament by birdieing the same hole 4 times, 4 straight days. 18, the finishing hole, which hadn't been done since like 1962 when Ben Hogan did it or something. 1952? I don't know. When was Hogan playing?
I think
40s? Oh, my God.
Wasn't he? I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, could be. Yeah. 1938. Here he is.
That's neat.
Gene Sarazen and Ben Hogan hooked up in a beauty of a duel here. They've been going toe-to-toe right down the final 18. Nice place, though. It looked like a really nice place. So we'll get into some of that. So Spieth wins, of course, after I wrote him off. I said I will never, ever consider this guy in any of the pools or anything ever again. And then, and I think it's great. I mean, he's the All-American boy. I like seeing Jordan Spieth be part of the mix, right? Could he be any more humble? Here's what he does, Lubie. This was kind of nice, right? So he shoots like, I'm assuming this was the low round of the day. He shoots like a 66 the final day. I think he had 68 the 3 rounds prior. And he puts himself, actually, as he goes to the clubhouse, he's in second place. Shane Lowry is leading the tournament 14 under. He's established 13 under, and they're like 6 guys 12 under. And they still have several holes to play, including a very tempting, easily hittable in 2 par 5 that usually is an automatic birdie, right?
Okay.
So you're figuring, at best, he's going to be in a playoff, maybe with 3-4 guys. So immediately, everybody started falling apart as soon as he got in the clubhouse. So Shane Lowry double bogeys a par 3. Now he's behind. And all of the other guys are missing like surefire putts. Only Cantlay is able to make his way into the playoff. But as he's leaving the course, right, they're like, I don't know, a bunch of little kids and maybe 50 people in a short, span of space there by where the players exit 18, all right? So Spieth actually stops, and he would normally sign like a zillion autographs, and he says, hey, you know what? I might be in a playoff. I promise you I will come back whichever way this goes, either after the playoff hole or if I don't have to go in a playoff, I'll come back outside. I'm just going to go like chill out, hit a few balls, and I promise you I'll be back to sign all the autographs. And I'll bet that he did show up, right?
I'm sure.
Even after he won. And that's a cool gesture for an athlete, right? I mean, considering that we started out talking about this finger flipping of Kyrie Irving, but I mean, All-American boy. You can't help but root for this guy. I wrote him off. He wins the tournament. How great is that?
That's about right.
All right, and then I have to talk about this funeral thing, too, before we get to John Congemi. So we'll come back with more in a moment. Make your plans. Be at the fights. Hialeah Park, and that's hialeahpark.com. And I think it's going to be a great night. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you go, Lubie, if you're back from your world travels. All right.
I'll be back. I plan on it.
That's going to be fun. All right, back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:48.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
You've lost that love and feeling, which I marched down the aisle to on 2 occasions. It was one of those, Karen, that was all we had. That was all they had. They only had a couple of musical choices, none of which were particularly good.
I feel like that says something if that's all you can walk to the aisle.
You never close your eyes. That part's good. But when the chorus starts and everybody's singing in the audience, you've lost that love and feeling.
There is nothing better than Defo. It's now time for the Defo Show.
Always a sound and, a very concrete foundation to a relationship, getting married in Vegas.
No comment.
One for 2 on those right now. I mean, current status, always questionable. All right, welcome back to the show. Good to be with you. There was a funeral last night. I did not attend, although I did attend in spirit.
Okay.
And I want to say, this was all part of my Ratso Rizzo dream. This was a fabled place, and they had their final night of harness racing at Pompano Park last night. They're never going to race another harness horse there again. Now, I think they went out in style. I mean, they threw everything out there, including the proverbial kitchen sink, and had I don't know, it might have been like a 14 race card where I guess every horse that was still stable there ran last night. Some of them might have even run twice, like it was the Hambletonian, where they run sometimes. The horses that are in the finals actually have run a second heat that same day. Can you imagine? You just ran a mile. You're like asking Jim Ryan to run a mile in the Olympics and come back a couple hours later, run another one. Hey, Jimbo, you got anything left in those legs? Okay, yeah, no, 357 is fine. And so anyway, they had like a huge card that ended, I think, after midnight last night. And many people that I know, including the great Mike Nyman, said they were going out there to pay homage to the fact that at one time, I mean, Pompano Park, I don't know, you weren't inclined to frequent these kind of establishments, Lubie. But, who I used to see out there all the time? It was like royalty out there. It was amazing. Of course, you had some of the fabled drivers of all time, including the great Stanley Dancer and the entire core of Dancer brothers, who were among the best in the sport. And it was kind of the winter paradise of harness racing, Pompano Park, for a long, long time. They had a guy named Alan Finkelstein, who was probably the greatest promoter of any. I mean, Frank Fiore's great. We know some brilliant people. I think that everybody would pay homage to Finkelstein as being one of the great promoters. He was a PR guy for the Yankees for a while before he became the publicity director for Pompano Park. And it wasn't uncommon, because the Yankees, had their spring training in Fort Lauderdale then. So, here's Alan, and he's always smoking a cigar, and he's one of these guys that just always made you feel welcome. Like you would walk by his office, hey, Deforrest, hey, yeah, get in here. Yeah, there's Whitey Ford, Mickey Mantle. You're like, holy crap. I mean, who doesn't this guy know? Steinbrenner, of course, was a big racing fan, and, he had all kinds of stories to tell. It was one of those places where you walked in literally to the publicity director's office. This was a different time in the sporting world, right? Can you imagine now? Just walking into the publicity director's office of some team. The guy, hey, how you doing? Yeah, you want a beer? Yeah, no, just one in the fridge there. And then would proceed to tell you like 2 hours of the most hilarious stories about the heyday of the New York Yankees or something that was happening in the sport. And then all kinds of dignitaries. It was kind of like being in Tommy Lasorda's office, right? this guy, Alan Finkelson. So always enjoyed any kind of contact with him. And of course, it wasn't like hard to convince me to go out there because I was a degenerate who was originally weaned on harness racing. First ventures to the track were Roosevelt Raceway on Long Island. And, there were many of the same people we're racing during the winter at Pompano Park, and then they were stocking the barns of Roosevelt Raceway in the summer. So you always saw that previous race designation, PPK. And it became part of my Ratso Rizzo dream to come down here. I always wanted to go to Pompano Park. It wasn't uncommon. The syndicators, the King brothers, who, were the original people to market the Oprah show. You think they made it big? A couple of their properties were like Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. I don't know if they had Jeopardy. They had Wheel of Fortune. They had all of this Merv Griffin stuff. And they were syndicating the Oprah Winfrey show when it first got going. Roger King. I forget his brother's name. I think they both checked out. But they were great. They'd be sitting there at the bar just buying drinks for people. Anybody, could come up to them. I mean, here are two of the biggest heavyweights that ever existed. I mean, right up there with Dick Clark. You're talking about the King brothers. And that was the type of clientele that they had there. And, then they had the usual schleps down by the rail, the people that had just emptied out of, I don't know, did John Knox Village exist at the time? How long has that been around? All right. So you had your Altacockers down there by the rail. You had all kinds of dignitaries all over the place. And the restaurant was great. It was a happening joint, Mike Lubitz. Very happening joint.
I believe you.
Maybe like, I don't know, it probably held like 14, 15,000 when it's packed.
That's impressive.
And they raced like Niatros there and Cam Fella, some legendary harness horses were part of the package there. So great place. And its day, deteriorated. The sport kind of died out. I mean, it's still going in certain spots, but not to the level that it was when you used to see 20,000 packed, like Yonkers and Roosevelt on a Friday and a Saturday night. Like a lot of other stuff that old geezers like me enjoyed. Unfortunately, it was dying on the vine. And they're a casino now, and they had that uncoupling thing, so you don't have to operate a pari-mutuel sport or endeavor to still have your casino license. And so a lot of places, as soon as they had that opportunity, the dogs, they were litigated out of business also. But they didn't have to worry about, having dog racing going on for like 3 nights, a year just to, be in compliance with the qualifications for a casino license. So anyway, they don't need that anymore. And that was it last night. Final homage to the Jugheads at Pompano Park. Can we get a little taps going here, Lubie? I'm feeling very sentimental about this. I can't tell you how many times I rolled into this building and I was just in love with the idea. There you go. Rest in peace, Pompano Park Harness Racing. It was great. The people that rallied around last night, I believe Pete Aiello, I don't know, was he calling some of the races last night? I could swear that was Pete Aiello. The usual race caller is a good guy named Gabe Pruitt. Do you think that he was so engaged, Pruitt, in other activities with relation to the closing that they had Pete Aiello come in, or did Pete just want to do this as a bucket list thing before the place closed down? What do you think, Lubie?
Probably. Oh, yeah, probably. He wanted to be a part of the ending. He's a legendary announcer now. Why? He probably grew up on Pompano Park.
And he loves harness racing, yeah. All right. Very, very interesting all the way around. The closing of harness racing forever. May it rest in peace. The Jugheads no mas at Pompano Park. PPK is finished, right? 5/8 of a mile, Lubie. 5/8 of a mile. That was the distinction, right? You were trying to handicap as you were wondering whether or not Del Insco was going to stiff the 1 ball. And what kind of stranglehold Carmine Abbatella was going to have on the 6. You were trying to figure out if the horse at a half mile was going to be more effective than they might have been running on the 5/8 mile configuration of what was then known as beautiful Pompano Park. Interesting, though. You don't like to see it, man. I love seeing these places perpetuate themselves. That's for sure. All right. Coming back with more. John Congemi. I'm not sure how much he got into the USFL. What do you think? What are the odds there, Lubie?
Not at all. Not much. I mean, Congemi is very active. He probably played a lot of golf, but maybe watched a little.
Yeah. I don't feel really compelled to tune in for some reason as much. And I watched a little of everything, including sensational tennis action from Monte Carlo. Lately, if you're a tennis fan, just put on the tennis channel, turn it on early in the morning because they're live from some, exotic destination. I believe today it might be Barcelona. And all of these great tournaments are going on, and the men are playing their eyeballs out, and I guess the women are going to be back in action. So you're getting wall to wall. I mean, just top level sports competition on Tennis Channel right now. Now, I mean, of course, it's not going to be any close of a parallel to what's on Ion Channel as we continue with John Congemi, who I understand is having internet difficulties. Now, this is not by our design, Lubie.
I know.
Because Congemi always makes us look like slobs on the show.
I'd rather him bring up our looks quotient, to be brutally honest. So there's not
people probably tune in. They're unfamiliar with the show. They happen to land on Ion Channel. A lot of people just probably scan Ion Channel arbitrarily here and there, right? And they see Congemi. They think they're watching like The Bachelor or something, right? They have no idea that it's three guys yakking about sports. All right, we'll come back with John. That's brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. It's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway, and that is in the beautiful city of Key Largo. If you're looking for an escape, how about they're still getting socked with snow like in Michigan?
That's
imagine, Lubie? That's disgusting.
Crazy. That's crazy. It's like beautiful here. It was a little warmer this weekend, but still, I'd take that over snow in April. Are you kidding me?
Your big debate is whether to drop into the pool or, take the extra, short step over to the beach, right?
Yep.
Jump in the ocean.
Yep.
Yeah. No jellyfish in a pool, though. All right. Are you overwhelmingly concerned about jellyfish? I mean, do you have like a Diana Nyad syndrome?
I just avoid them.
You don't go to the beach that much, though. I mean,
I used to. I've never been scared of them. I mean, even the days where there's a ton of them, I mean, usually can avoid them.
All right.
Attention.
After seeing that Nyad thing, documentary was scary to living. I mean, Jaws didn't frighten me from going to the ocean as much as seeing that jellyfish on her head. All right, back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that.
The time.
Great place, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, by the way. We'll tell you more about that as well. It's 8:01. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Either way, if they can get the right guy to fall, like, could be a coup. So there's a few guys around that area that actually could be really good if they get the right guy, honestly.
It's now time for the Defo Show.
Some brilliant draft analysis there from Mike Lubitz, and that was fantastic. Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show, here on Ion Channel. What was that, Lubie? I stepped
I
all
said
over
to
you there.
juxtapose with this gentleman who actually knows his stuff and says specific analysis about specific players because he actually has a clue.
Yeah, it's good. He's not going to fake his way through this thing. We're going to welcome John Congemi to the show here. Right? In fact, let's do it. And normally we have John on video, and the guy looks great, man. I mean, he's an inspiration to anybody to start just massive amounts of Botox injections if you're getting old
But I don't think
and
he
brittle
does.
like me, because the guy looks great. And we welcome to the show. How are you, John Congemi, with the little Dateline Dolphins today?
I'm going to fake it till I make it, boys. I'm
There.
doing okay.
Doing all right.
Yeah, it's
Everything's
all
going
coming
well.
up.
It's a good weekend for South Florida sports with the Heat and the Marlins and the Panthers. It's been good stuff around here.
No doubt. All right. Speaking of good stuff, I want to get this in for our man Big Jack here at Ion Channel. The Cigar Snob presentation of the Cigar of the Year party. And that is taking place on April 23rd. It's at the Surfcomber on South Beach, right? So you're hobnobbing with all of the glitzy and glamour types. And you you can blend your own cigar of the year, and they have all kinds of great food and drink there. You can find out more about it at universe.com/cigar of the year and get your tickets and line on up for that. Are you a cigar smoker, John Congemi? Do you light one up every now and then when you're out there on the golf course?
Every now and then, not a lot.
Yeah.
I enjoy it when I do it, but it's not a lot.
Danny Boy, though, he'll puff on a cigar. And now, is he smoking them while he's playing golf? Because those two things, cigars go great, with golf, the racetrack. I'm not a smoker. I never, liked it. I was always kind of, very, very much had an adverse reaction to any kind of cigarette smoke, except if it was at a racetrack. But I think Marino was, a fairly frequent cigar smoker, was he not?
I don't know. Back in the day, maybe Dan had a couple more cigars than normal, but I don't think so lately. But you know what? The two guys that come to mind, Michael Jordan and Mario Lemieux. You can tell guys like cigars and do it a lot when they play golf, and they don't have to alter. They can smoke a cigar while swinging a golf club and not get any ashes on their shoulders or anywhere else. I mean, that's a pro, right? That's knowing what you're doing as you're smoking a cigar and still hitting quality golf shots.
Well, and then what do you think about the cigar? As we saw Joe Burrow kind of take up this tradition as a symbolic victory gesture. Started, of course, by the great Red Auerbach of the Boston Celtics.
I like it. I like it. I mean, Joe Burrow, he exudes a lot of confidence. He's kind of like your throwback type of quarterback when Joe Willie came on the scene. You get that Joe Cool feel from him, right? But Joe Burrow likes to take it to the extreme with, how Namath had the furs. Joe has a different type of style when he's getting dressed, and it's his own. So when you see him, you go, "Oh man, that's funny. That's actually kind of cool." Joe Burrow's taking his own, spin on things and taking it to another level. I like the way Joe Burrow handles himself.
Yeah, and the transition is, somewhat natural and necessitated by the fact that the PETA people would boycott all Bengals games. And maybe you're not even happy about the name, the Cincinnati Bengals, anymore if Joe Burrow showed up in a Joe Willie fur coat, which I never forget it, John. I still have this image, and visualization is a big part of anything that I'm capable of remembering. But literally, with a fur coat, the slumped shoulders, and being held up by two Swedish models, the likes of which, I mean, you can't even begin to think that Hugh Hefner could conjure up. He was being literally carried in from the parking lot for the AFC Championship game against the Oakland Raiders, the classic, about noon with a 1:00 start, and then, of course, ended up with that heroic pass to the great Don Maynard. And, I mean, how he won that game, that is the stuff of which legends are made. Because I saw him coming into the stadium that day, and we were like, oh, my God. And it's been verified now in various documentaries that Joe was completely blasted when he played that ball game.
Well, that's how you make it. That's how legends were made back then, right?
Yeah.
You ran hard, you played hard, and he got through that one unscathed, which was nice.
You wouldn't have thought that he would have made it to whatever medical facility they had underneath the grandstand there at Shea that day. Much less made a fourth quarter heroic pass, and then later would go on to guarantee that he was going to beat Don Shula and the great Baltimore Colts team. And you thought that this cat's flat out crazy. But if you can back it up, then that of course helps constitute and consolidate the legend. All right. John Congemi with us here at State Line Dolphins. Of course, we talk a lot of different things. I did want to get into this because I believe it was when you were on the show that I wrote off Jordan Spieth forever after his horrendous
It was last week.
+6 missed the cut performance in the Masters when I had him labeled as one of the guys that I would want on my team.
Jordan Spieth actually came through in flying colors, and we kind of wrote him off here at the Congemi household as well. We said, well, Spieth's in the house, he's got the lead, but Cantley or somebody's going to Straka or somebody's going to come up, Lowry, Varner, they're going to kind of overtake him. But nothing happened, and Cantley was able to make a couple birdies down the stretch to get in and tie Spieth in the clubhouse. But then you felt like, well, Spieth's been in there for about 2 days, right? He's been waiting around.
Yeah.
He's not going to be fresh. Cantley just finished. Cantley's going to win, an extra hole, so he'll win the playoff and take the championship. And they both dump it in the bunker. And Cantley has just an awful lie compared to Spieth, which wasn't an easy shot. But, he splashes one out and knocks it to about an inch. And that was all she wrote for Patrick Cantley. But I thought had the advantage going into, that extra hole scenario.
You could see it was interesting the way things unraveled because, I was sort of in and out of the tournament there. But when I saw what was happening, I thought, okay, this is going to get real interesting down the stretch. And most of the guys that were actually in, either in contention or Lowry at that point was ahead of Spieth with a 14 under. So you're thinking there's still a couple of holes that, look like birdie holes to these guys. Especially even the last hole, which Cantley had birdied the first 3 rounds and just missed by a whisker, making it 4 and winning the tournament there, which was kind of interesting that he would then stuff one in the sand after Spieth had already landed in the trap and compromised any chance he had. Certainly was not likely to make a birdie there, although he almost did. But Cantley had been brilliant, and he's going back and forth. What happened there? I mean, have you ever played there? Because did the wind pick up like 100 miles an hour in their face between the time they played 18 in regulation and went out there for the playoff hole?
Well, I've never played there, but friends of mine have. And you could tell watching the telecast yesterday that there was some weather coming in the distance, and they couldn't figure out the wind on 18. It seemed like it was in their face because Cantley hit driver off the tee in the sudden death playoff hole, and Spieth still stayed with 3 wood, and Spieth had like 204 yards in, where Cantley had, buck 70 or, 70 and change.
He's hitting a 9-iron.
They couldn't figure out. Yeah, they could not figure out the win there. And they both came up short, which was surprising because you figured they would err to take that hazard out of play.
That burial, man. I mean, if you're plugged in the sand, John Congemi, do you, go ahead and take a few liberties in that spot? I mean, who's going to hit that ball like that? Get out of here. That shouldn't even be a rule in golf. You should be allowed to pick the ball out of the hole because obviously the sand was poorly configured and put it on a spot where you might be able to get a nice clean strike on the ball, no?
Exactly. You act like you walk around and say, is everything okay over there? I'm going to go help you find your golf ball. And then you kind of, walk past yours and kick it out of the, the divot that it's in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're in better shape when you come back.
Yeah, it moved. But nobody saw it, so it obviously doesn't count. Yeah, he was in a rough spot, but that was I just written him off. I mean, Spieth, I thought, and I don't know if you caught this. Did you catch him talking to the fans there before he walked off and went into the clubhouse? How great was that, man? I mean, how do you not root for this kid? Yeah.
That brought me back on Team Spieth, to be honest with you. That was a pretty cool move, telling because it wasn't like there was a bunch of adults waiting. They're all, kind of teenage kids or even younger, just waiting to take a picture or getting an autograph or sign a shirt. And he told everybody, I'll be back, win, lose, or draw. Don't worry. I got to be in a playoff. I'm going to go hang out for a while. But after the playoff's over, I'll be here to sign autographs. And he came back with the champion jacket on. So it was a pretty cool moment for him personally, and the kids, I'm sure, were thrilled to get his autograph.
Yeah, and all those guys unraveled once he posted that 13 under. Lowry immediately, plunks one in the water, ends up with a double bogey. So he falls behind. And, Cantley was the only guy able to, put a birdie away on the last few holes to get into the playoff. But, very, very exciting stuff coming out there. It looked like a cool place to go, John Congemi. this Heritage Classic there, and what is that? Harbortown, South Carolina. The scenery was wonderful also, and it turned out to be a very, very exciting event. All right, how much attention, if any, did you pay to the opening weekend and the return after 37 years of the United States Football League, the USFL, John?
I watched 2 plays.
All right. Were they good?
Yeah.
Were they good?
They were both running plays up the middle, and then I kind of just said, "What am I doing? I don't want to watch football. I don't want to watch football." Had nothing to do with the players. Had nothing to do with the league. Had nothing to do with anything. Just my time clock's not ready to watch football yet. I'm into playoff hockey. I'm coming down the stretch here. Playoff basketball. Watching golf. Football's not on my radar right now. So I don't know. It's just me. I maybe I'll get into it next week or the week after. Who knows? But right now, I could care less.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, you're as inclined to watch football as anybody. I'm a big football fan, as is Lubie, and most people are. That are sports fans. Football has become the game. What would it take to pique your interest enough to start watching the USFL, or even consider attending a game? And what kind of occurrences would have to take place for you to develop an interest in this sort of thing?
I don't know, Defo. That's an interesting spin on it or question. I don't know. I don't know if it's just I don't have the interest because I haven't followed the teams or followed the players, and I know who the coaches are. Like, I know who the players are basically because watching them play in college football, watching them in the NFL, a lot of them that have had their time there, didn't get it done, trying to get back. So I've seen a lot of the names. I don't know. Right now I'm more into other sports. I'm caught up in, watching the Florida Panthers, on their 10-game winning streak and getting into the playoffs and win a first round and get by whoever they play. It looks like Washington. I'm looking at the Heat, with the beatdown on Atlanta, trying to get into a run and do well. The Marlins opening day, I kind of watched that a little bit. Didn't watch one pitch of the second game, but I watched a little bit of the opening day, which was kind of cool.
That was great, by the way. That opening day crowd was sensational.
Yeah. The next day they had 11,000.
Awesome.
Oh, they had 11 the next day?
Well, you knew that was coming, Lubie, right? Yeah.
It's not atypical of, teams around Major League Baseball to have that kind of drop-off, but, you knew you could write that in. Yeah, I would have gone under 9,000, so I would have lost that bet.
They went over.
But the opening day was great. All right, so you were saying, with the USFL.
Yeah, I just don't have, I'll probably get into it if it's a down golf week or, there's nothing going on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whenever they're playing, and I'm home and I just flip it around. I'll watch a quarter, probably ending up, seeing, the Pittsburgh Maulers playing the New Jersey Generals or whoever's playing. But right now, it just felt like there was other things that I've been following, I've been tracking. So I'm engaged. I bought in 2 or 3 months ago. So I'm following that through instead of starting up and occupying my time with players and teams and coaches I don't really have a grasp on yet.
All right, Lubie, you were
drifting
off there, Lubie.
Yeah. I didn't see a response. I wasn't sure if you let me jump in. I just wanted to John, we had this thing with Mike Mayo last week, and he was concerned for the Heat because they didn't know their opponent by the end. They knew their opponent the last of anyone else in the conference, and he thought that was a disadvantage. And in the end, it felt like it was an advantage because their opponent played 2 extra games. When it comes to things like, we know the bye, people like the bye because they get more rest. What is your idea when it comes to rest versus rust? Because to me, if you're the Heat, I would rather have had as much time as possible. I don't care who the hell they played versus just keep going, especially with an older ball club that needs as much time off as possible.
Well, it depends on where you're at in the playoffs. You're the Heat, you're the number 1 seed. You're getting, a team that just barely scraped in, to get into the playoffs. You're getting the bottom seed. So I think in that scenario, you're like, well, as much rest as we can get, the better we're going to be because we're on our game. We're feeling pretty good about whoever we match up against, whether it's the 9, the 10, the 8, whoever ends up winning that play-in game, we're going to be okay. We're worrying about ourselves. instead of worrying about the opponent. Because if we can take care of what we do, we're going to beat anybody we're going to, play in a 7-game series. And I think that's the scenario the Heat fall into right now. They're at a level where, they were blitzing from, 3-point line yesterday. They were really good, and they played good defense, and they were ready to play. It didn't matter who they lined up against. They were going to play their game, and they were going to have their tempo, and that other team was going to have to match it. So I think rest over rust when it comes to the number 1 seed. You know who you are, and you've got the button turned on. You're gonna play that way in the playoffs, and they played that way all year. And the same thing, for the Panthers. That they're an offensive team that is generated by their defense, and if they get good goaltending, I don't care who they play in the playoffs. They're going to play their game, and that team's going to have to outscore them at some point. And in a 7-game series, it's going to be tough.
Trae Young, man, he looked like Arturo Gatti in the late rounds of the first Mickey Ward fight. I mean, just a shot fighter hanging on. And you remember, I don't know, did this happen a lot? Now, you grew up in Florida, right, John Congemi? Were you a Floridian your whole life? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure that this happened because it was kind of a neighborhood thing in New York, but it may have happened here where the hotshot guy, comes to your park to play. And, maybe he comes with a buddy, but, maybe he comes alone. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. He's like supposedly a great player over there from the Bronx or whatever. And he just beat the living crap out of the guy and humble him to the point where he leaves like bitter. He'll never come back to your neighborhood and play again. That's what it looked like with Trae Young yesterday. I mean, they butchered this guy. And, I'm sure, that he probably has more than enough confidence to just write that off as a bad game. But, I mean, that was a different story than he was experiencing, in those 2 playing games that he was involved in. That's for sure.
Yeah, it looked easy for Young in the playing games, right? He was scoring at will, a lot of assists, had the offense going. I mean, that was a different team. But it was a different team that they ran into in the Miami Heat. They do everything well, and when they're hitting their threes and moving the ball the way they do, I mean, if the ball's gone, they're getting so many good looks, and those guys know they throw daggers from that 3-point line, and it's tough to stop. You just can't outscore them when they're playing that way. Duncan was just unbelievable yesterday, and everybody played their role to perfection. You couldn't have had a better scenario for a Game 1 home court win than the Miami Heat had yesterday.
No, it was great. I mean, you're thinking, how could they possibly lose more than 1 game in the series to this team? They're missing my guy, Clint Capella, the Atlanta Hawks. I think that's a huge differential for them because this guy's a very steadying player, usually a catalyst behind anything that's good. He was always a good player in the postseason, and one of those guys that just flat out hustles all the time and surprises you where, you're like, wow, who was that? Oh, it's Capella, of course, on the inside, going against 2 bigger guys, grabbing a rebound, putting it back in. They definitely miss his presence, I think, in the lineup, and probably too much to overcome that and the Miami Heat at the same time. John Congemi with us. It's State Line Dolphins here with John Congemi. Zero interest in the United States Football League. I mean, I do like this, though, and I would imagine you do, too, because I always felt like there should be another platform for these guys besides, and you experienced this, besides playing in Canada. If you're sort of like on the borderline and maybe even have some NFL teams telling you, hey, show me something in this league and we'll take another look at you in, training camp or whatever. But I mean, should there not be a platform for these guys that are that close to being NFL players but probably just need a place to, stay with it and demonstrate what they are capable of doing?
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for that because I was one of those guys that did that, playing in Canada for 9 years. I mean, it's just one of those things where you have another opportunity to achieve, to get paid to play a sport that you played as a kid and the sport that you love. And whatever level that is, you're probably within that 1% of guys that achieve their dream, and you have a chance to continue that and hopefully get to the next level, which is the National Football League. So you never know what's going to happen with the USFL, and then next year the XFL, coming in. I think that's where you get the overload. If you have both spring leagues kind of competing at the same time, if that's going to happen next year, you're going to have a real maybe dilution of talent because you still have Canada. Now you have two leagues, and the NFL. I mean, the NFL's smiling because they're going to have a plethora of players to kind of pick and choose from to get to their 90 when they go to training camp in July. Not that they have a problem doing that now, but they could really be particular on evaluating, a certain lineman, a certain wide receiver. They don't have to kind of go, well, we'll just take this guy at the end. They have real competition now because guys are ready to play, and they're just going to take the next step and move on to the training camp in a National Football League city. So it'll be interesting, but I'm hoping to get into it because I do want to see what's out there. I just wasn't ready for it this week.
Yeah, me either. I didn't even know it was coming back until like a couple of weeks ago. Then all of a sudden people were saying, oh, wow, USFL coming back after 37 years. Now they had a different purpose then, and I'm assuming that they realized that, there's a zero likelihood that they're going to be able to ever rise to the level or even attempt to. It would be a waste of time to try and compete as they once, had their stated goal with the National Football League. And I guess on the threshold of them maybe making some kind of foundation for themselves that they could have existed and kept the thing going, the Trumpster got in there and said, well, no, we got to go head-to-head with the NFL, which turned out to be, a brilliant decision, leading to the immediate demise and fracturing of the league. Out of business for 37 years. So we'll see. I just don't know. It's hard to measure the level of the people of the United States and the world's thirst for this type of football being sold as professional football when we all know that, the product level is not anywhere near the same. And as a professor pointed out, John, it probably all stems from the fact that outside of the guys that are in the NFL, there are no good NFL offensive linemen because a lot of the guys in the NFL are no good offensive linemen.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's really a shortage at that position. And you can appreciate, if anyone, being a quarterback, the value of having, some guys up front that actually know how to block.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the most important part of your offense, the engine of the offensive line. And if you've got a couple of guys that can play and you can pay them and you can keep them there for, 5, 6, 7 years, your nucleus as an offense is going to be productive. And the offensive lines in the NFL, you kind of get masked. Like the New England Patriots do a good job of taking guys that no one's heard of, and all of a sudden they become staples of their offensive line. I just think that, 20 years ago, you could get a more consistent offensive line because the athletes you were going up against aren't what they are today. I just think it's a matchup nightmare. It's almost in basketball. If you have that 7'3" center and the other team, you're going at 6'9", what are you going to do? You're just going to pound it into the blocks and have that guy just take over the game and then kick it out for open threes. In the NFL, it's these pass rushers and these dominant defensive tackles that are so athletic that these offensive linemen, they just haven't caught up to the athleticism in terms of being able to move their feet and their hands without holding, without whipping, without doing a lot of things that you see happen with regularity. And it's an advantage to the defense, at least the front seven. If the rules have changed to give the offense more of an advantage, I think, up front, the defense still has an advantage because of the athletes and where that position has come in the last 15 to 20 years.
I'll tell you, John Congemi, what would spark interest in the USFL, and that would be if Jimmy Johnson decided to come back and coach and give it a shot again. Always fascinating. And wow, I mean, the whole idea that we could be watching him coach from Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. I mean, I might start planning my trips down to the Keys, at this time of the year, as opposed to, maybe in the fall or later on during the season. No, always a great time, though. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, going strong. Huh? How's your brother Dominic doing down there, and what's happening?
You know what? It's moving down at the Big Chill. They've been busy this whole entire winter and getting into the spring, and my brother Dominic said, the more the merrier, because they've been cranking out great food and great times down in the Upper Keys. So Dominic's ready for more. They had a big weekend this past weekend, and Larry and Amanda, they just treat you with first class service. So anybody getting down to the Big Chill and haven't been there to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, go experience a day either during the week for lunch or for dinner at the restaurant, or if there's a big game coming up and you want to watch the Heat, you want to watch the Panthers in the playoffs, go to the sports bar. It's spectacular. TV's wall to wall, and the food is outstanding as well. And then if you want to go to the tiki bar outside and have a cocktail and just take in some Bayside views, they have that as well.
The professor, who owns a piece of a very successful restaurant here in Pompano Beach, Florida, a place called The Foundry, always jamming, and a lot of good food there. And so he's a connoisseur, and he's a top-notch, especially a barbecue chef himself, although cooks up a lot of stuff. We always like going to his parties. He was raving about the nachos there, and you're not on a video, but like the plate was the size of this Klitschko poster that's behind me. And all piled, steeped with the good stuff. It wasn't one of those things where you got a little guacamole and sour cream at the top, some salsa, and then nothing underneath there. That in and of itself is amazing. And he said that the worst thing that he did was order more food after that, because that was enough for like 5 people. The portions and the quality are just amazing at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
They are, and the views are even better. So when you get a chance to get down, it's just a spectacular place to go relax, have a couple cocktails, have great food, whether you want to fine dine or just go to the sports bar, like you said, and snack on some nachos with chicken and have a cold beer and watch your favorite game on the big screen TVs. It's got it all.
Yeah, I always like when you see like Dominic or Amanda meeting some fisherman down there right on the dock, and he's got a cooler of mahi that he just caught. It was just plucked from the bay there, from the ocean, and you're thinking, wow, it can't get any better than that. All right, more with John Congemi coming up here on Dateline Dolphins with John Congemi. Jim Sarney wanted to know, do the Dolphins have the 102nd pick? Is that it?
Yes.
Their first pick's in like the 4th round?
Exactly.
Want to know if we had any conjecture on that. So
only
I don't know if you want to
picks this year, I believe.
Have you done any mock draft speculation on that selection yet, John, or is it too soon to tell? People are analyzing it. People are looking for answers on this. Even if it's being facetious. But I have no idea. What do they need? Linebacking. All right, we're coming back with more with John Congemi here in a moment. Ion Channel, great place to be. Don't forget about this Cigar of the Year party. That's going to be great. Nice. You get more information at universe.com/cigar of the year. Nice. And all kinds of great cigars being represented at the Surf Comer Hotel, one of the classic joints down there on what is now South Beach. And it's going to be April 23rd with an open bar. And wow, that might be something that we want to check out. It'll be open bar 3 hours. How about that?
That's a move.
With all kinds of great stuff, too. Really high-end booze at this thing. So it's going to be great. Cigar of the Year party. You would expect no less from these people. And universe.com/cigar of the year for more information. All right, coming back with more with John in a moment. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubitz. The Defo Show here on Ion Channel. Google the Defo Show. Catch all the stuff we've been doing for the past several months. And we'll return with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Look, it's still getting to me, man. The end of harness racing at Pompano Park. Unbelievable, Lubie. What a sentimental moment. It's 8:32.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Jimmy Johnson joins us here on the program, along with John Congemi, and it's Dateline Dolphins, of course. Leslie Visser, the lovely and talented one.
Did you ever try to recruit Troy when he was leaving Oklahoma to come to Miami?
Yeah, I tried to recruit him 3 different times. I was in his home as sophomore in high school. I had him in our camp. And I gave him the award as the best camper. You know.
that was good thing.
Really? I gave him a trophy.
Best
you know,
camper.
He was the best camper, and I gave him the trophy. If I could have given him a couple $1,000 if it had been legal.
Hey, Troy, look underneath the zipper.
Yes. But you know, he ended up going to Oklahoma. So then with Miami, we broke his leg, and so he was going to transfer because Switzer wanted, the little quarterback that could run fast, Jameel Holloway. And so I called Troy and I'm trying to get him to come to Miami. Well, his father lived in California, so he went to UCLA. So when it came time to draft him, there wasn't any question. He was going to turn me down this time.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Of course, Troy Aikman did all right for himself, especially recently, as picked up about, $90 million to be a color analyst on Monday Night Football. Not that tough of an assignment, Mike Lubitz, huh? 1 game a week, 20 games a year, not even, like 18 games a year. Is that it on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, something
17.
like
17.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe they work 18 weeks. But anyway, yeah. Pretty good work if you can get it. All right, speaking of good work, this guy always does a great job. He's with us every Monday on Dateline Dolphins. That would be the great John Congemi. Not with us on video this week as he had some internet problems, but we'll try and rectify that. And for future episodes, you'll be able to see John Congemi. Also brought to you each week by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, Overseas Highway in Key Largo. I've been trying my best, John. I don't know. Well, where are you at with the NFL draft? It's going to take place on the 28th, so we're 10 days away. There's always wild speculation as to what teams are going to do. This draft not as sexy as others with regard to having no great, distinctive, generational type of quarterback talent, at least not perceived to be at this point. Quarterbacks probably won't be taken until after like the 5th pick. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem to have the glitz and glamour of some of the drafts that we've seen in the past. What's your overall assessment? I mean, what do you think? You watch a lot of college football. Are the NFL rosters going to be filled with a lot of talent from the 2022 NFL draft?
I think it will be, Defo, and I think it's not as sexy in South Florida for Dolphin fans because the Dolphins got rid of basically their entire draft in the first 3 or 4 rounds, going out and doing what they did in free agency. But there will be a lot of talent. There will be a ton of edge pass rushers that are going to get drafted early. You're going to have a lot of offensive linemen that are going to get drafted early. And there's a ton of wide receivers and big-time talent in this draft. So I think for the teams that do have a stockpile of draft choices, they're going to be able to, improve their roster to the point where they've got some game changers definitely at those 3 positions. And I would say that the Dolphins, having maybe 4 or 5 picks after, free agency and looking forward to maybe next year's draft where they have 2 number 1s, the Dolphins are going to be in a good spot to maybe pick up an outside linebacker type of player, potentially a guy that can play multiple roles in this defense. Josh Boyer, the defensive coordinator, is not shy about, having guys play different positions in this defense. The more you can do the better you're going to be and the more suited you're going to be to play in this defense. And I think that's the type of player that they're going to be looking for, because with all of the talent that they've acquired, at wide receiver in the offseason, with their offensive line in the offseason, by tagging Mike Gesicki, there's a lot of guys that don't play on special teams that are on this team now. And they're a lot like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus Tom Brady, because Tampa Bay was in a position where they had all these great players, but nobody played special teams. Well, you got to be able to get those type of people on your roster. And I think the Dolphins are going to be looking for those roles, those types of players that can play linebacker, that can spell Jerome Baker, that can potentially add to Jerome Baker on the field when you take out your middle linebacker, but can yet run down on special teams and be able to cover a punt or cover a kickoff or be able to be on a field goal block unit. They're going to look at those guys that can do a lot of different things, because that's where they're going to be a little bit deficient on this roster.
John, lately, and by lately I mean since Mike McDaniel was hired, we've not only heard Tua be a lot more vocal, but whether it's social media or out in the media, but we've heard a lot of the times where he's praising Mike McDaniel and he's praising this and that. And even at his event where he had McDaniel there and the offensive line coach there and the coordinator there, and he openly said, it's so great to have all of these guys here, which to me is strange. You would assume they'd support their quarterback, but it was sort of tipping the cap to the new staff and sort of side-eyeing the old staff. We've heard a lot of stuff since Brian Flores left that he was not embracing Tua, and you can see by bringing up Fitzpatrick and doing a lot of stuff they did, he didn't embrace him. But geez, it feels like it's night and day between McDaniel, who just got here, and the guy who was a part of drafting Tua Tagovailoa, and the treatment the kid's gotten. And to me, it feels like it can only help him to know that he has the confidence of his coaching staff as opposed to whatever the hell was happening before.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody really knows the real story behind the scenes, what went on last year in terms of the relationship between head coach and quarterback. But looking at what you can visibly see, at Tua's foundation function that he had at Hard Rock, seemed like everybody's on the same page. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's in a good mood. It's a fresh start, right? For your quarterback that you're trying to hopefully take the next step with a new offense, with a new offensive-minded head coach that's going to be kind of in your corner, that's going to do everything they can to make him successful, because you definitely have the pieces in Hill and Waddle and Cedric Wilson and Preston Williams on the outside. You've added, speed at running back with Mostert and Edmonds. You've got bolstered your offensive line with Armstead and Williams on the left side, potentially starting there. So you've got a lot of a positive mojo going on offense, and you've hired a young, innovative, football-minded head coach in Mike McDaniel that, has a lot of experience, but he has no experience as a head coach. But when you see him and you hear the players talk about him, yeah, he's quirky, yeah, he's different, but everybody gets a good vibe off of him. So I think in the building, it's kind of turned around that, it's heading in a positive direction offensively, and more about, the team and how we can do it together. And it seemed like, Brian Flores was maybe a little bit more of a old school head coach, where he was harder on his players and more demanding on his players and more demanding of his coaching staff. And maybe that wore the wrong way. I don't know. But when you take a look at the record, the last 2 years, 10 wins and 9 wins, I don't think that's happened in 20 years.
No.
For the Miami Dolphins in back-to-back seasons, how many wins they've had. So, one play away or one game away in each year of getting into the playoffs, the Dolphins as an organization have not seen that success in 20 plus years. So you're trading away good vibes and everybody's smiling, and you don't know if that's going to equal wins and equal success. That's yet to be determined.
He always had an especially sour look on his face, though, Brian Flores. Now, we understand later on that maybe he had good reason for that there was a lot of turmoil and negativity swirling around the organization between what he thought should be happening and maybe even not getting the respect that he was due from the very beginning when the owner of the team possibly says to you, hey, listen, I know you just got this job, but I want you to lose every game. right?
Like, come on.
Don't worry about a thing. We got your back here, and here's $100,000 just to make sure it happens. I mean, if that happened, I mean, I could see where the guy was sour, but it did seem like. I mean, the only time I've seen that look a couple of times, over the years from the Mustang, and then Lubie before we start every show has that same sour face. It just didn't seem like he was happy. I mean, obviously there were things that were not, overwhelmingly in the corner of harmonious bliss with the Dolphin team, and you would imagine that overall that's going to have some kind of detrimental impact on the franchise and even the play on the field.
Well, you take a look and you read between the lines, and potentially one of the multiple reasons that Brian Flores isn't the head coach of the Miami Dolphins was what was happening behind the scenes, that he wasn't happy with a lot of the things in his mind, the way things went with upper management, the way things went on the field this first year, and the way things went with getting the people that you wanted to get on the roster. So there's probably good reason for him, the way it exited and the way it ended. We didn't really grasp the whole story as it was going on, but certainly he wasn't happy for his tenure, the entire tenure for the Miami Dolphins. But there were times where you felt like you could see his emotion and you could see his happiness on the sidelines kind of, feed through the football team, because when you're winning, that brings that joy and that brings that, feeling of success. And you kind of felt that with Brian Flores as your head coach. You felt like you were going to have a guy here for a long time. At least I did, covering the team and being around the head coach. You felt like whatever trouble was happening behind the scenes, that they were going to be able to overcome that because the Dolphins were really close. And now that scenario is completely flipped, and you've got, a 38-year-old head coach for the first time that's inheriting a team that's won 19 games in the last 2 seasons. Don't break what's not broken. Let's keep the defense intact. Let's get some help on the offensive line and get some help for Tua. And let's see what a new offensive system can do for this guy. Let's see how it injects some points on the scoreboard and gets this more explosive offense with more speed and potentially bigger plays on the horizon. So, I didn't see that coming in the offseason. I don't think anybody did, because you felt like you're going to have a coach here that was having success on the field and was one game away. But those dynamics have changed, and so is this team. This team has a lot more talent on it now than it did a couple months ago. And you're not going to be able to add a whole bunch in the draft and undrafted free agents, but you will be able to, roll out a team that's going to hopefully challenge to get into the playoffs in a very competitive AFC East and a very competitive AFC conference.
I hope this guy makes it, this McDaniel. I really do. I'm rooting for him. I mean, it's not like I rooted against any of these other guys, but, you could almost sense that eventually the clown factor was going to overwhelm them. And, they were all going to morph into Joe Philbin, including Adam Gase, who was hailed as this same type of innovative genius when he got the job. So we've heard the story before, but this McDaniel just strikes me as being maybe one of those oddball, guys that has a little bit of Bill Walsh in him, and can make something happen here, and might be a very relatable guy by comparison to Flores, who seemed maybe he was a little Nick Saban, Belichickian. Although Belichick's not supposed to really be this way with the players. It's just the image that he projects to the media and the persona that he likes to have out there, that he's like this bitter old fool. But, I'm hoping this guy McDaniel makes it. It'd be nice to see something actually on the upswing there when, these other teams in town seem to be, moving at least in the right direction with the Heat, as you mentioned earlier, John, up 1-0 and looking like they should be able to handle the Hawks at least in the first round relatively easily. And the Panthers, I mean, Mayo is already thrown in the towel, John. So I don't know what you're doing. I think he gave me a date for the dinner at Anthony's Runway 84, a place you're very familiar with. He can't believe it. The Panthers are on absolute fire, which, I mean, you said you got into the hockey, postseason, or, you like the hockey playoffs. I mean, when a team is just playing like that, especially in hockey where, the rapport and the chemistry is as abstract as the game is, I mean, it seems to be even more important in hockey to have this kind of, sort of team culture mentality, where everybody's in it together. Could they possibly blow a first-round playoff series? Playing, any team in any sport, the way they're playing this year. I mean, can you see that happening where somehow they bow out in the first round, even if it's to the Caps?
Well, I think it can happen to anybody. I don't know.
Please don't say that. Mayo's ready to pay. He's ready to pay.
No. I'm pulling for you, Defo, and I don't think it's going to happen to the Panthers. But I'm saying with any team, not necessarily the Panthers, putting the goggles on them, but any team, especially in hockey. Chemistry is a big part of it, and goaltending is probably even a bigger part of it. So if the goaltending, if your goaltender is your best defender, you're going to win a 7-game series, right? No matter how average you play the rest of the way, if he can be your best player, you're going to move on to the second round or the third round or get to the Stanley Cup. And right now, the Florida Panthers, they started the season, I think, winning 8 in a row. Now they're up to 10 in a row to hopefully close out the season and continue to win. So this is a team that's been riding, averaging 4 goals a game at home. They're doing it on the road as well, it seems like. They're not giving a whole bunch of chances, and both goaltenders, especially Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight, playing yesterday, almost getting a shutout, letting 1 goal in. They've been spectacular. So the defense kind of, starts the offense up. The talent on all 4 lines are incredible. And if your goaltender is your best defender, which they've been lately, this team can go a long way. So, I see a chicken farm and some calamari at runway 84 coming your way for sure.
Nice bottle of wine on Mayo. That'll be great. I hope you can join us for that. Then we'll just go ahead and add your portion to Mayo's tab. But he's ready to pay. I mean, he's resigned to the fact, and that's the worst thing you could do as a degenerate is accept the payoff on a bet.
All right, we're not
as a premature evaluation. Yeah. So, that's off the table. If we can't have them, go ahead and buy in because that'll jinx what's been a fantastic. They could put Billy Lindsay and Scrudlin out there and probably win the first round.
The whole thing,
Mellenby, start throwing rats at each other and still win this first round playoff series, at least in my opinion. All right, we're going to come back with more with John Congemi. John Congemi every week brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 140, Overseas Highway, Key Largo. Larry Calvano and the people down there, they just do a tremendous job and they inquire about. I mean, they're limited, but wow. I mean, if you're looking for lodging, this is exquisite at jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com. Check it out. It really is something. It'll make for a spectacular stay in the Keys. You're going to love every minute of it and feel like you're in the most luxurious accommodations that you've ever been involved in your lifetime, and reasonably priced too. So, especially for me that time, John, thanks, man. $0 was a good price to pay on that. Really appreciate it. Lubie sleeping in the back of a Ford
problem. That's
Falcon.
always the best price, Defo.
Yeah. That was good. May not be able to pull that same thing for everybody, but check it out anyway because really was just absolutely amazing. The accommodations there at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, we're coming back with more. We'll wrap things up on this Monday edition. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We got Mike Lubitz. John Congemi not with us on video this week, but has vowed to have that remedied. We'll get that fixed for you next week. You'll be able to see John. I'm Jeff Deforrest, and back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time!
It's 8:52. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Jimmy Johnson joins us here on Poker is your game. You're covered in style. Fins, of course.
Hey, Coach, you were talking about, different ways to motivate guys, different ways to talk to guys, talking about Brian Flores. And I think just listening to him talk to his team, I think it resonates with a lot of guys. I think that's an important ingredient if you're sitting in the room and you actually believe what the guy, that man is telling you, that's your head coach. How did you feel about that, your message resonating with your team?
Johnny,
at any level.
I think you're exactly right. I've never been a dreamer. I've never dreamed about stuff, because if you dream, that means you got your fingers crossed and you're hoping.
Yeah.
But I believed, when we were at University of Miami, the graduation rate was right about 50%, which that's about what the student body is. And so, I looked at it, and we were recruiting these inner city kids. And from day one, I talked to them about when they got their college degree. If you really believe in something, John, it's part of your personality. My personality was, hey, these guys are college graduates. We were 1 in 15 in Dallas, and I took my guys out, Tony and Dave and Butch and all that crew. We went to a little restaurant, and I said, guys, just hang with me. I told you we were going to win a national championship when I was at Oklahoma State. Now, we had to go to another university to do it, but we won it. I said, hang with me. We're going to win a Super Bowl. We operated as if we were going to win a Super Bowl. It wasn't hoping, it wasn't dreaming, it was believing. And I think that if that's your personality, it carries over to the players.
Right.
It carries over to the assistant coaches. That's the way they deal with the players. And hey, after a couple of years, all of a sudden these players are believing they're going to win it. I think that motivates the average player to be a good player.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, and good to be with you here on Ion Channel. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, John Congemi, not with us on the video stream today, but very much alive on the audio end of things. And it's Dateline Dolphins with John Congemi. Don't forget about this Cigar Snob presentation.
Yeah,
Cigar of the Year party. Yeah, it's going to be good. Oliva cigars, man. I mean,
Nice.
That's like the premium of all premiums,
Up
is it
there.
not?
Yep, it's definitely up
I
there.
think Don King was smoking Olivas all of those years. Speaking of guys that lit up a victory cigar. Surf Como Hotel, first place I ever stayed when I came to South Florida. High school, we crammed 8 guys in a room there. It was not what it is today, that's for sure. Been under renovation, but going to be a beautiful spot there on South Beach for the Cigar of the Year party. You can get information, universe.com/cigar of the year. Oliva going to be featured with Melanio, Madura, and you can blend your own cigars. A lot of good stuff going on there. So check that out. That's April 23rd at the Surf Como Hotel. Once again, universe.com/cigar of the year for tickets and information. John Congemi with us just a couple of minutes ago, John. Flown by very quickly as usual anytime we get together to talk a little sports and especially some football. I do have this impression, though, and we know, and you've said this many times, and it is actually, common wisdom that, the NFL has always been a copycat league. Somebody starts running a wildcat, they have some success, all of a sudden everybody's got a wildcat play that they're running and sneaking in there. Somebody tries, some kind of special fake punt play, and now everybody's got the same fake punt play in there. And especially when it comes to how to run a franchise. And the Rams, they go all in last year. They win the Super Bowl. Forsake any possibility that they're going to be able to perpetuate this with draft picks anyway, because they trade them all virtually away. And now everybody's doing the same thing. We saw a lot of players traded for just an absolute, gross number of draft picks that you would never have figured that one guy could be worth if they put that same value on the draft. So has the draft pick, in your opinion, become a less valuable commodity? Because the irony there, of course, is that we were sold by the Dolphins that everything that they were about was accumulating draft picks. And you assume they were going to draft players with that, but instead they traded them all for established veterans and got themselves a handful of really good players.
I think it depends on what type of franchise you are, what condition it's in. I think the Dolphins took the Rams model and ran with it because they felt like they were a few pieces away from bolstering what they had on this current roster. Like I said, they've won 19 games over the last 2 years. So you add a left tackle, a left guard, you add some one of the most explosive players in football at wide receiver, and you get better at running back. You keep the defense intact. This team has a window now, probably 2, 3, 4 years, so they can really get after it. Because next year, not only do they keep the bulk of their high draft choices, especially in the first round, but they have a bunch of money that they can still use in free agency. So this window for this football team is now. They have to strike within the next 2, 3, 4 years to be able to make it count. And the Rams were able to do it and have success when they went for it in free agency. And let's hope the Dolphins have that similar success over the next couple of seasons.
All right, John, it's supposed to be some good weather, I think, coming up this week here in South Florida. I hope you get out there on the links, inspired by the Jordan Spieth victory. That was not exactly the thrill in Manila, but a lot of fun yesterday, especially since as soon as we wrote him off, like the curse of Rachel Nichols, the guy rises from the dead and wins the tournament first time. Actually, I think it was almost a year to the day. His last win was like in the Valero Open, and that was also, I think, on an Easter Sunday. So a lot of good stuff coming up there. Don't fear, we're going to get involved in more of those pools, right? We have some more matches coming up. And we'll see how badly we can pick guys. Yeah, it's a choke at the moment of truth. John, always a pleasure, my friend. Jimmy Johnson's Big Show. We thank them, as always, for bringing you John Congemi. And John, we hope to talk to you and see you again next week, my friend.
Thanks, John.
Absolutely. Talk and see you guys next week.
You will,
All right, John Congemi, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of fun being with you. Peel yourself off to Mount Monday. Still a great time of the year. Always that debate, right? Is it the fall or the spring, Lubie? Fall or spring? Best time in the sports.
I fall spring,
calendar.
but fall isn't too shabby. It's nice to have football, not USFL, but real football. But this time ain't too bad. Having the Panthers roaring, having the Heat looking pretty strong in the playoffs, and having the Marlins finally turn things around a little bit and almost at 500. Right now, it's not so bad.
Not bad. They got hosed in a couple of games, the Marlins. By all rights, right? Yeah. It's like when they have a fighter that gets jobbed on a decision. Yeah, well, by all rights, he should be undefeated.
Exactly.
You can't say that, though, in baseball. You blew the game, you blew the game. Although both times hideous umpiring.
Pretty rough.
I mean, hideous umpiring cost the Marlins a couple of games. And, that always happens to the teams that have been downtrodden forever, right?
Yes.
They just spit on them, I mean, every time they have a chance. So hopefully that'll be a ship that goes in the right direction, scoring more runs. That's for sure. And we'll see if the Marlins can continue. I think, what are they? They play today, right? Lubie taking on the Giants. Is that right? No, that's the Mets are taking on the Giants.
The Marlins are off today. They take the Cardinals tomorrow at 6:40. So that would be at home. They're still at home tomorrow. They welcome the Cardinals at 6:40.
All right, very good. Always tough. The Cardinals, one of the great franchises in terms of staying in contention and staying relevant in the history of modern American sport, and even going back years and years and years ago. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7. It was a lot of fun being with you. Harvey's going to join us tomorrow. And after losing, did they lose 2 in a row to the Orioles? Are you kidding me? Harvey may not be able to speak tomorrow with the Yankees going down a couple of times. I want to say yes to that. And also Brett Testa, the agent of the Stars. So we'll have more football conversation.
Rothstein will also join us. Those Miami Heat. They have game 2 tomorrow night.
All right, we'll have to send him some of those Oliva cigars if Jack sends us a box. Make sure that Ron Rothstein has plenty of those, and you can line them up after the Heat win the first playoff series, which it looks like they're going to do in hand. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. here on Ion Channel. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Mike Lubitz, I'm Jeff Deforrest. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.